It's good to be back, people. Come to think of it, I think that's what Kiefer Sutherland said on the set of that new 24 Live Another Day thing. Well, I'm at it. It was actually a pretty good special, though the ending sucked. So, in celebration of that and my very, very belated 3-year anniversary reviewing, let's take a look at 24 The Game.
The following takes place between 9 p.m. and 10 p.m.
So this game and I share a bit of a history. It came out when I was initially getting into both games and 24, so naturally it was on my want list. But I wasn't allowed to play M-rated games at the time, so I never got to play it until I picked it up a couple of years ago out of curiosity. So was it worth the wait? Well, let's take a look. If there is one thing I really have to give this game credit for, is that it feels like a legit rendition of the show. Priority number one for anyone thinking to make a game based on 24 would have to be to get Kiefer Sutherland to play Jack Bauer. Sutherland may not be Big Boss, but he is definitely Jack Bauer. Much of the rest of the show's cast is added to the ride as well, which is nothing but an asset. But the game even goes a step further than just fielding some weighty paychecks to various TV stars. It calls on various stylistic hallmarks of the show, like the omnipresent clock appearing before, after, and even during missions in a similar manner to the show. And it even has those split screens that actually lend themselves pretty well to a video game. Sure, it's all superficial, but really appreciated nonetheless. Now, as to the actual narrative itself, it's okay. I mean, it's neat to see the introduction of Chloe into the series, as irrelevant to the actual plot as it ultimately is. The main villain is actually way more memorable than he has any right to be, and the plot itself has the structure of being a worthwhile 24 Season 2.5 with the usual 3-act structure and one fairly neat, if somewhat predictable, twist at the 3/4 mark. But
it is very mechanical and soulless. Alright, a true 24 game wouldn't have as much action. The show doesn't have that much action when you really think about it. It has a lot of character-driven plots, and we don't really get that in this game.
The one place where they even try to add some character intrigue is with President Palmer attempting to recover from the assassination attempt at the end of Season 2. But it's jarringly half-baked. You hear from this quote-unquote story arc on a total of 2 occasions throughout the entire game. These occasions are 12 hours apart with regard to the in-game clock, and we ultimately don't get any resolution to this plot at all. Then there's scenes like this, where Jack's daughter's the only hope of stopping a terrorist threat at CTU.
Is Kim the only one not being held?
Kim is not putting her life on the line.
Now, you know as well as I that if that information gets out, a lot of undercover agents' lives are at stake.
Gee, I don't know, I was kind of expecting some more pushback from Bauer on that one. Or maybe some indication of the effect this is having on the guy. Maybe when she gets taken hostage, Bauer might voice a bit of regret or guilt or even urgency? Nope. The framework of a good thriller on par with the show is here, but it's used as a means to drive the player to all of the action missions instead of being fleshed out. And that's a big disappointment. I mean, yeah, I get that it's a game, but if you're gonna use that excuse, you might as well have not made a 24 game to begin with, alright? There's not that much action in a regular season of 24 anyway. So, if you weren't gonna make a good story, what was the point of making this game anyway? But I gotta admit, the voice actors really do carry the story through to being decent. I contend that without them, this entire game would have fallen apart. But Kiefer Sutherland really does push through and manage to still command a presence as Jack Bauer, albeit a slightly bland one. So is the story good? No, not really, but it ain't terrible. It serves its purpose.
And that purpose is to let us wreck shop with Jack Bauer.
Well, Jack Bauer and a few other characters anyway. Personally, I would have been down with just playing as my buddy Jack, but oh well. So as you can clearly see, 24 the game is a third-person shooter with a bass-backwards control scheme. Yeah, okay, not exactly Gears of War, I see. Clearly this game was made to cater to those who had little experience with shooters, like I would have been if my mom had let me play it when it came out. There's a tremendously generous auto-aim, and once you've locked onto an enemy, you get this little additional aiming system where you can try for specific parts on the body like headshots. The controls for getting a headshot are pretty finicky though, and a few chest shots should do the job fine anyway. And while that gunplay setup isn't exactly my cup of tea, the guns themselves are at least pretty darn satisfying to work with. It's refreshing that you don't find yourself constantly relegated to cover all the time unlike most modern shooters, but a good chunk of that is because the cover system is really clunky. And it's neat that there are health packs instead of regenerating health, but it won't matter anyway because this game is really easy. The AI is fairly laughable, and don't underestimate the power of that auto-aim. But hey, even if it's sort of by accident, what can I say but the shooting is decently compelling. Then there's the driving that I'm sure everyone was clamoring for in a 24 title. I mean, really, I don't think the occasional car chase in this show was meant to be taken as a mandate for a quarter of the game to be spent behind the wheel. What's especially bizarre is that some of the driving missions aren't even anything but a simple drive from point A to point B with no interference except maybe a time limit that someone added to justify it being a level. But when you actually are involved in a car chase or something to that effect, it's actually pretty darn good. It actually reminds me of that one Flash game on Miniclip. I think it was called like On the Run. Any of you guys remember that by any chance? Well, anyway, the chases can be just as frantic in that game, and the graphical fidelities are about equal.
Buzzing!
But whatever, for something that didn't even need to be in the game, it actually comes together fairly nicely with good control and some pretty darn good tension every now and then. Finally, we have a host of minigames. They're pretty standard and rather out of place, but I'd be lying if I said they didn't have a pretty neat charm to them. And while the interrogation mode isn't exactly LA Noire, it's still a decent if underdeveloped aspect of the game.
Start talking now!
I hope that this review is sounding tentatively positive. That's kind of what I'm going for right now. I'm sort of in between recommending and condemning this game. The best way I think I can describe this game is that it's cheaply made, but I almost feel like that works in this game's favor. I mean, okay, the frame rate's terrible. I don't think it ever makes it to 30 FPS outside of maybe the mini-games. But I don't think this game's target audience would really notice, and I even got used to it. The shooting is easier than it should be for reasons earlier discussed, but it's also more fast-paced for reasons earlier discussed. It's easy to feel like this game is shorter than the ideal 24-hour length, or 17 hours and 12 minutes when adjusting for commercials. But for such a homogeneous procession of shooting sequences only occasionally broken up by driving and minigames, a 6 to 7 hour length is probably for the best. As is, the game didn't really drag on too much, for whatever it's worth. There's a part of me that almost wishes I didn't even review this game, hence the length it took to get it out. I guess I wasn't expecting it to be so average. Usually when I review a game like this, I'm putting forth a huge recommendation for you to play the underrated gem before the passage of time completely washes it away. But I don't think we'll be losing much when no one ever remembers this game, and make no mistake, no one ever will remember this game. But it's not bad either. I've played it twice and somewhat enjoyed it both times. I'm not gonna play it again, but honestly, pick it up if you like the show.
Alright, that review took much longer to get out than it should have. Sorry about that, people, but I'm back and hopefully I'll get some more diverting stuff for you guys soon. Until then, thanks for sticking around.